think we will start with introducing myself, and then we are going to introduce the speaker and have Chuu Wei is here online too. Okay. Chuu. Okay, she's there. Okay, we are going to start. My name is Sciortino. I am the founder and director of SEA Junction, and SEA Junction is this place that you see, a public venue focusing on Southeast Asia. And since the beginning of the coup in Myanmar, or the failed coup, as some say, we have given a lot of attention to Myanmar because we believe it's very important, not only for the people of Myanmar, but also to the people of Southeast Asia. If indeed one day the military will be defeated, then hopefully that would be a very good example for other countries in this region that also have quite authoritarian regime. So we are all hoping that indeed the people of Myanmar will be able to one day defeat this dictator. In the meantime, this is 3 years already. So we have this panel and also the exhibition to see what is happening in these last 3 years. And contrary to the past, because we have done exhibition every year since the coup, we have chosen this time not so much to show the horrible side of the civil war or the oppression of the military, but we have chosen to show the beauty of Myanmar and the resilience of, particularly in this case, the women of Myanmar and their fight against patriarchy as well as dictatorship. So the first speaker will be Chuu Wei. And as you know, we are opening today the exhibition, and the exhibition focuses exactly on the theme of womanhood as a sign of resilience against the coup and against patriarchy. So she will tell us more about her art and the meaning of her art. And then later we will have 2 experts to talk more about what has happened in Myanmar in the last 3 years. So please, Chuu.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming today and listening and sharing my work, and visiting the exhibition is really mean a lot to me. And thank you, SEA Junction, for giving me the chance to make the exhibition. First of all, I want to tell all of you giving me some time. My artworks and painting today that we are showcasing, there will be about more than 20 painting, almost 30 artworks that you will see in the exhibitions. These artworks some of them are really personal for me. Some of them are connected to what is happening in Myanmar. Actually, they are just a small little part of what is happening in the history of Myanmar. To introduce you with my artwork, like an introduction, is like I have been talking about Myanmar women's situation, like it's almost 14 years now. So since before the coup, this is my times and effort. I give everything to talk about women's situations in Myanmar. Especially I use the fabric, which is even the object. The fabric doesn't have the right way. People doesn't treat the right just because the women use the fabric, and you will see this story in the artwork. And there was before the coup, my life is only about women's situation, talking about this right. But after the coup, I realized and I found some ideas and some perspective that the politic and also the history part and what is happening in the past has a lot of influence, and then link what is happening to us, things from the British colonizations, and also so there are a lot of links. So for this reason, I started to use a lot of college or newspaper, and vintage photographs. So these photo and the past is like digging from the past, because what is happening right now is not only happening recently. It has a lot of impacts and a lot of things that we have carried from so many years from the past and from the history, and also from the cultures and religions and everything, a lot of things. So to tell you the link from the past and now, I use this old newspaper and vintage college photographs. Another part is, when I create art, I like to tell a lot of stories. Even one artwork, and I try to link and give the information as much as possible. And even though I give a lot of information, I feel it's not enough. And during the revolution, and after the coup, I more and more realize things are more complicated and a lot of things included. For example, the people, when you ask the people of Myanmar, when you ask, everyone want to remove the dictatorship, everyone hate military. This is for sure, with no doubt. But without realizing, there are a lot of people, and for some cases and for some topic, a lot of people, they still accept the idea and kind of propaganda messages, kind of brainwash messages from military, without realizing that we are accepting this idea, without realizing these ideas came from the military. So in my artwork, what I believe is one day we will win, and when we start to build the better future for Myanmar, it's not only about the political position, also all the idea and brainwash and all the poisonous messages from a long time ago. We also have to know where this came from, because of military, or maybe because of someone poisoned it, and we should know this, the ideas and messages, and we have to change the concept and also the way we think and the way we behave as well. So in my artwork, I subtly I twisted these messages, and I tell people to question themselves why this happening, why we cannot hang the men clothes and women clothes in the same level, why there is a still signboard like no women allowed in the pagoda, which is not from the Buddhism. And so when we trace back from the past, there are I found some research paper, and some is according to the photographs, and some's new. The military, they use religion, traditions, and cultural, just to make it sure that men are stronger, and they are stronger, especially when their party is a women leading party. So they want to feel people like they are the protector of the country, they are protecting them. So to make sure that men are better than women, they use everything, every weapons to spread these propaganda messages. So in my artwork, I make the viewer and the visitor to question about this, and also a link from the past, what is happening and from the past. And also you will see kind of woven series. This woven series, I weave the paintings and the fabric, because it's a two different sides of the concept that I want to tell about the political side, and also kind of a women resistance side, and also kind of the kind of women equality side in one painting. And I twisted, there are so many links between these two. And I got the references from the daily market basket, which is still using in Myanmar, made from the kind of recycled material, and really beautiful, really colorful. So this basket, I found it, and I really feel that I want to create based on this daily market basket. So you will see there are some, the painting might be small, but it has a lot of meanings, and it's a really smooth, really twisted what is really happening in a delicate way. So these are the introduction of the hour of the exhibition. From my personal side, I want to introduce a little bit to because I want to introduce you a little bit of about my art life, because and also my life the way my life have changes, and according to my experience, the way I create art, it has a lot of impact. And I think during this exhibition, you will see 3 or 4 different series which are different from each other, but it is made from one artist. So I think it's important to understand a little bit of my life, and just because of according to the life experience, the way I approach and the way I create artwork has impact. So as I introduced the beginning, I started created art when I was 18 years old. In the streets of Mandalay, there was a sexual harassment to me and my sister. And starting from that moment, I can say that I became an artist, and I started to talk about the women's situation there, how we feel unsafe and how we don't speak about our problems. And so the main topic at this time was to speak out about our situation, so people will more and will take more action. So I'm telling the more viewer through my hour at the time to speak out our problems. And it's take a lot of while. It's almost a decade until the coup. This is it has slightly changed some ideas, and but this is my main focus. And you will see at this time I was living in Myanmar, and with a lot of color inspirations around me. I use a lot of bright color, strong color, bolds, and really vivid and strong brushstroke at this time, like a young, loud. So I created this kind of artwork, and you will see in the exhibition. And after that, during the coup, in the street, I decided to participate in so many different ways. I was really quite active, and so not only during the coup and also during the election, I supported with my artwork. At this time, I didn't really know how to create artwork in the kind of political movement, but anyway, I keep creating. At this time, I create the artwork by collecting the testimony and handwriting of the people in the street and during the protest. I'm really glad I did this way, because at the time, it's more like a daily research of the voices of the people. Now I'm not showing this, but I really recreated using as the resource of my creations, and I recreated in the weaving way and also in the some artwork, and in some part I really reused this testimony and this writing of the voices of the people. So at this time, during the coup happened in the streets of Myanmar during the revolutions, when I was in Myanmar, I collect hundreds and thousands of writings on the artwork and the voices of the people. There was during the revolution, and after a couple of months, because I was quite active, and especially always with art, they consider as the activist and consider like a dangerous artist, and a group of policemen arrived in front of my door with guns and start searching. And starting from that night, I ran, and now I arrived in Europe. So when I arrived, escaped in Europe really shortly with only one luggage. When I arrived here, I had no friend, no families, only one person arrived here. So the beginning 6 months was quite tough. And no one know me as an artist, and I write a lot of email to everyone. How can I keep continuing as an artist? But I keep resist, and keep fighting. And then after 1 year, I could be able to manage to make some exhibitions and some artwork and political movement, and a lot of starting small, and then I could be able to live. So when I have nothing to do with the painting, the painting and the paints are so expensive in Europe, I started to use my own body, because this is the cheapest way to create artwork. I go to the public and I use my body. It's like a performance using my body, and I keep creating art. I keep spreading giving the information about what is happening in Myanmar. And As for I doubt, like, is it powerful enough to change this situation, or maybe to participate in this movement of change? Is this really effective? Is this really useful? I doubt. But then, even though I have a doubt, I don't stop creating. I don't stop doing giving the hour in the publics, and then after 6 months or 7 months that I arrived in Europe, I thought I was safe, but because of the hour and the murals and some performance on the streets, my parents and family inside Myanmar, they have to run from their homes because military taken actions and open active fine on me, even though I was already 6 or 7 months away from Myanmar. So starting from that, I also decided to be more careful what I talk about, what I share about on the social media. But whether it's seen or is hidden, never stop. I still creating it. And then for this reason, I decided to move my locations. Sadly, in 2021, August, I decided to move to Ukraine because I thought it's cheaper to create artwork and to buy canvas and stuff, and also the living expense is much cheaper. So I moved to Kyiv in Ukraine. I could stay only kind of 6 months there. I think I'm the really unlucky one who experienced two war, kind of two coup or whatever you name it, within 1 year, and I was forced delocation for 2 times. At this time, I carry all the art that I created from during the revolution from Myanmar, which took 2 months to smuggle out Yangon airport. It was just really positive, really strong, and I took this painting with me to Kyiv, to Ukraine. And then when the war happened, the war declared in Ukraine, I was escaped because of I was going to my exhibition opening in Luxembourg, but all the painting from Yangon were trapped in Ukraine, in Kyiv. It took 9 months that I wait and find the connections, and after that there was a truck driver carry these painting from Kyiv to France again. So even the journey of this painting itself is really interesting. It's through from war to a war, and then arrive in a safe place. I guess chance only this year to show this artwork, and some of the I still using it as a kind of a resource artwork, and during the exhibition you will see some text and some written text. Most of the text really took from the reference of the source material, the artwork of the people. After Ukraine, I still creating artwork, but it's more about resistance and also about exile. But at the same time, I realize the beauty of the country, even though the beauty of the resistance, even though the war is happening, even though the horrible things are happening inside the country, but still there are things that we cannot destroy, like the resistance of the people, even though for Myanmar people, even though think they were born surrounded by problems, even though now they are surrounded by wars and problems, still they manage to smile and happy, and also find in a really positive way to keep resistance during these situations. So I really respect this mindset, and also donating each other, helping each other, because right now in the world, if we cannot point any country like this, certainly this country is supporting Myanmar. We cannot point any one country. Most of the revolution was based on the donations and based on the helping to each other. And I think I will say that the revolution is based on the donating each other. So the poor people donate to the more poor people, even though if you're a middle from the middle class family, you provide to the poor people. If you have 2 meals, you share 1 meal, and mostly in this kind of thing, they're sharing it. This is also the beautiful part of this, the resistance. And I found this way, and another one is literature. And also the alphabet, the beauty of the literature, and we have our own writing text, the languages. This is also really a beautiful part, and I also want to link the history part, but at the same time, all of the history and what is happening from the back um, um, has this influence on the link what is happening right now, and I believe that they will help for our future to make a better and stronger and more a brighter Myanmar. And I really hope there will be a no now it's a 3 year, and then I really hope it will finish in 3 years and there will be no more 4 year. I really hoping for that, and I will keep supporting. So this is I think that that's it, the introduction of my artistic side and also my creative side. For the Ukrainian side, I create some artwork, and you will see during the exhibition, which is really different because at this time reflect my feelings, and also I have a lot of color references from the Orthodox Church in Kyiv. So I use very minimalist color, like only 2 or 3 colors, really different from the other series you will see in the exhibition.
Thank you very much, Chuu. And she has been talking of different series because this solo exhibition is composed indeed of different series. As you can see, there are different kind of painting. One is textile, the other one college, as you mix with textile. The other is very colorful, and the one from Kiev that she mentioned just now are the golden one. But the topic is always woman. Now, she mentioned that she hoped that this war or this fight will soon be over and there will be no 4 years. Now, let's see what our expert here think about this. This is a reflection of the 3 years of the coup. So first, Ohmar, please. Ohmar is a famous human rights, peace, and woman activist. She has been fighting for democracy and rights of people and women for I don't know many decades, but still, she's still full of passion in spite of the long fight that seems never ending. So please, Khin, she's with Progressive Voice, by the way, an organization who is on the front line of the fight for New Myanmar. Please, Khin. First you, and then you can sit also, rather than standing, but you want to be strong. We say strong enough. 16 few days. Okay, come a little bit on the side so you don't. Yeah. Okay, so please Khin first, and then we will have a Phil Robinson.
Thank you. Thanks, Leah, for having this space for us, having this exhibition that Chuu has done extraordinary work to really, as she has already shared with you, to present her very beloved motherland that she is a bit far for now, physically, but I have no doubt that her mind and heart and is day and night you are with Myanmar, Burma. Yeah, I hope you will stay on the screen until the end, as much as you can, of course. But this event is your work, Chuu. Thank you so much for creating this amazing artwork, and it's really extraordinary, I would say. I just took a walk and really walked closely watched closely, look into your work before I started. So I really want to thank you. So what we heard from Chuu also reassure the very determined struggle of the Myanmar people for generations. But of course, you see now the young generation like Chuu, joined by the other older generation from the past, like us. I would say those we are the one from the past generation, and some are actually in this room as well. And I think this is the most beauty of Myanmar's strong resilience, that I'm afraid that many people in the world might not actually have picked it up yet. Not enough. How strong the desire, the determination to achieve the freedom and to defend democracy and to really like move forward for this society, transform for a sustainable peace for the future generations. Chuu has actually, I'm sure you pick up from what she shared with us, the people to people solidarity, caring, sharing, loving, supporting, protecting. This is something that the United Nations couldn't probably even imagine, or probably don't even want to do it, because the reality is, let's hear from Phil later of where the United Nations is. Ooh. Yeah, unfortunately. I'm here to just give you a latest update of where things are on the ground, where Phil will of course also share of where things are with the international community. As I was introduced by very kindly, I've been a human rights democracy activist since I started back in 1988 as a student. I was 20 years old. So my very work for democracy and democratic change in Burma, Myanmar, ever since then. So now it's already 35, almost 36 years. And I never stop. And yesterday I was asked by some people, like even this morning, as I gave some media interviews, and I was asked, even though you've been saying things, sharing with us of what's happening on the ground, this military is not going to give up. So why are you still feeling hopeful? I want to share with you why I am still so firmly hopeful, is because of the young people like Chuu and some in this room also, and beyond, and especially also those who are trying whatever way they can, including especially those who are on the ground in the country day and night, in spite of the very unprecedented violence that it's so unspeakable of this military's violence. And yet our people are not giving up at all. In fact, every single day, as they come to face more violence, they become more determined for what they want to achieve and how they're going to achieve it. So 3 years ago, when the military tried to take over, then the world who followed Myanmar for decades, supported or followed or analyzed, they were actually like basically thinking like, oh my goodness, that's again, here it comes again. This country is under the military again. And nobody actually thought the whole country will rise up to the point, to the 3 years without international assistance. Just in the last few weeks, starting from the end of October, more than 30, in fact, 35 or 36 towns are already in the hands of the People Resistance Movement. Tens of thousands of Myanmar military troops have either surrendered or defected to the revolution. They've been welcomed by the revolutionary forces. And the Myanmar military, those who follow Myanmar military always said that this is a really secret, strong institution that you can never have a crack on them. But nothing, as Buddhists say, nothing lasts forever. There's no permanent. And this military has come to the point of at the verge of falling down. Yes, the price is so immense. The price that people are paying is, again, also unprecedented and unspeakable. So here we are, the people of Myanmar keep informing to the world of what they're doing, but also trying to see if also the world will actually understand of what they are doing. The ASEAN, the UN, the different countries' governments, who are rather worried about the people's efforts on the ground coming together for a new Myanmar. When we talk about new Myanmar, people are worried. And I have to keep telling them, please don't. After all, they are the ones who live there. And they know exactly what they want. And they know exactly what they are doing. What we need is for us to put the confidence, to place the confidence in them, if not support in practical way. So that's where Myanmar is at the moment. You can see that military is completely fragile at the moment. They are totally desperate. The only force that they are still able to rely on, even like heavily relying on, is the airstrikes. I mean, imagine a country where the military is using airstrikes on the population. ASEAN still deny to hear this. The Security Council still don't want to talk about it. So here we have is only people to people. The people to people for the Myanmar people, but also people to people from your support as well. So we would like for you to really, really join hands and support these courageous, brave Myanmar people, particularly the young generation. This is a long struggle, decades-long fight, but it is an intergenerational, but led by the young people. Young people like Chuu, and amazingly to see the how young women in our time, yes, I was 20 years old when I joined, and there were many of us as young women back then, but if you really look at where the role of the young women and how the responsibility and leadership that they have showed to the whole country is just amazing. For me, again, if this country is not going to have a true, genuine change, what country is going to have? I don't know. So here we are, and I would like for you to really just support, but please keep with your questions, because I rather actually have more interaction with you at the end, if we still have time, of course. So I'm going to pass on to Phil. Thank you.
To Khin Ohmar for this update on hopeful updates that you have given. I have seen Khin Ohmar another moment more pessimistic about what was going to happen, but today she's in a good mood, it seems, also encouraged by development on the ground and the work of Chuu. Now we are going to Phil Robertson. Is Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch. He's a friend of SEA Junction, and of course is also in the board of the Foreign Correspondents Club. And we have here also, when I want to recognize also a present, since we work quite closely together this day. So please, Phil, tell us, and later on we will have question and answer from the floor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's great to see a full house to talk about these very important issues. As mentioned, I work for Human Rights Watch, so we've been tracking the situation in Myanmar for quite some time. Really, dates coming from the early morning of February 1st, 2021, when I think I was as surprised as everybody that there was actually a coup. Everybody, we had all heard the coup rumors. We'd all heard that this might happen, but we all believe that that's crazy. You know, the Myanmar military is in a pretty good situation right now, and why would they risk it all to have a coup? No one's going to accept that. But, you know, they sent the armored vehicles through the capital, Naypyidaw, and arrested the country's elected civilian leaders. And 3 years on, the junta's relentless efforts to consolidate power have caused a spiraling human rights and humanitarian catastrophe in the country. Junta security forces have killed over 4,000 people. They've arrested over 25,000 people. They've deliberately blocked humanitarian aid from reaching millions of people at risk. And, you know, they're dealing with, there's a widespread economic and infrastructure collapse in the country. The number of people needing assistance has grown from 1 million before the coup to 18.6 million in 2024. That's almost a third of the population, including 6 million children. We've seen the military's widespread and systematic abuses rise to constitute crimes against humanity and war crimes. And the fact that they have been able to get away with these crimes going, you know, all the way back since I started working on Myanmar back in 1993. I mean, and all the things that you've worked on, you know, the decades of impunity meant that Senior General Min Aung Hlaing and the generals who launched that coup thought that they were going to get away with this too. I think they wouldn't have done it unless they were confident that they could control the situation. And quite clearly, that was a massive miscalculation, you know, right up on the level of Putin's miscalculation in invading Ukraine, that, you know, he would be able to roll over Ukraine in a matter of a week. Well, I think that the Myanmar military junta's miscalculation about the reaction of the people of Myanmar to another coup is on parallel with that kind of miscalculation. And it's not surprising, perhaps, that one of the major backers of the Myanmar military is Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. And in fact, they're the largest seller of military weapons to the Myanmar military. The UN High Commissioner, Volker Turk, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, succinctly said today, quote, "Pitched battles between the military and armed opposition groups have resulted in mass displacement and civilian casualties. As the military has suffered setback after setback on the battlefield, they have lashed out, launching waves of indiscriminate aerial bombardments and artillery strikes," unquote. So what you have is a military that's getting more desperate and resorting to its tried and true tactic of attacking civilians. And you would think that this would then galvanize the international community, that there would be a major response. But actually, as these atrocities spiral and slivers of refuge disappear, the United Nations Security Council remains at a standstill. And many governments who should know better keep saying ASEAN centrality, unquote, to solve the problem, and throwing the issue of Myanmar into the lap of a hopelessly divided association of Southeast Asian nations, which is split right down the middle between the maritime ASEANs, led by Malaysia and Indonesia, who want to take a more muscular approach to deal with the situation in Myanmar, particularly with the military junta's failure to uphold its commitments to ASEAN, and the Mekong ASEANs, led by Thailand, and now Laos as the ASEAN chair for 2024. But finally, in December 2022, it should be noted that the Security Council passed its first resolution on Myanmar since the country's independence in 1948, denouncing the various post-coup abuses. But the final text itself was troublingly watered down, with calls for sanctions and arms embargo that an initial United Kingdom-led draft removed to stave off threatened vetoes from China and Russia. And it was a major, major effort to keep China and Russia from vetoing that resolution. I mean, spoke to diplomats from the Malaysian Ministry of Foreign Affairs who were busy lobbying the Chinese to not veto it. So, I mean, it was a situation where Southeast Asian countries were saying to China, please stay out of it. Let us deal with it. The UK, the Security Council's designated penholder for resolutions on Myanmar, had for years taken a hyper-cautious approach to the country. That approach failed to promote any chance of accountability after the military's 2017 crimes against humanity and acts of genocide against the ethnic Rohingya. But nevertheless, we did finally get a resolution, and it passed with 12 members in favor and abstentions from China, Russia, and India. And The UK and others said, okay, it's a compromise, but it's an important first step. You know, they said it's opened the door to do much more, you know, that we can heighten the scrutiny of atrocities taking place on the ground. And, you know, they said we expect to take future action. That's actually what the UK ambassador said at the time. You know, we expect that this resolution will be implemented in full, is what the ambassador said. And guess what? A year on, that further action has not materialized. Without any leverage or enforcement mechanism in the resolution, the junta has simply disregarded the resolution's calls to release of prisoners and a full, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access. And it's, in fact, since December 2022, when that resolution passed, we've seen security forces arrest more than 2,200 people. There's reportedly killed another 1,700 people in airstrikes. They committed arson, torture, and other abuses. They bombed schools, hospitals, camps for displaced persons, you name it. The junta has ramped up deadly blockages of humanitarian aid as a method of collective punishment against the civilian population. This past year, we saw Cyclone Mocha hit Rakhine State. This was, you know, probably the worst cyclone to hit Myanmar since Cyclone Nargis. It made landfall in May last year. And guess what? The junta refused to authorize travel and visas for aid workers to go to these areas. They refused to release urgent supplies from customs and warehouses. And they refused to relax the onerous and unnecessary restrictions or life-saving assistance for millions of people in need. And the UN estimates that 10,000 children in Myanmar under 5 died in 2023 due to treatment for malnutrition. Now, in the last couple of months, there's been a bit of a change. Since last October, with the 1027 offensive, there's been a lot of fighting between junta forces, and alliances of ethnic and anti-junta armed groups erupted across much of the north. Another 660,000 people have been forced to flee their homes since, which pushes the number of internally displaced persons in the country to over 2.6 million. And this spike, you know, we've seen in cases like, for instance, in Rakhine State, you know, further restriction. The military blocking urgently needed access to roads, telecommunication services, and waterways. Rakhine State is the poorest state in Myanmar. And, you know, the difference between access to trade and some of these basic goods is the difference between people getting along and people starting to starve. And that is what we're seeing. And as increased fighting is kicking up there, we'll see more and more restriction. You know, for instance, the authorities prevented the humanitarian organizations Médecins Sans Frontières from running its 25 mobile clinics in Rakhine State. You know, that has had a massive impact on people's health. All these restrictions, you know, are based on sustaining the military's longstanding 4-cut strategy, which is designed to maintain control of an area by isolating and terrorizing civilians. That 4-cut strategy violates Myanmar's international obligations on the rights to life, health, and shelter. Put bluntly, the 4 cuts is a cowardly strategy to attack civilians in a systematic way in any area that the military deems to be an insurgent area. That also includes the use of sexual abuse and rape as a weapon of war. So, you know, while the 2022 Security Council resolution has not become the hope for on-ramp to stronger action, we still are hoping for more action. We're still pressing the international community to do more. And what we're hoping is that this coup anniversary, combined with the junta's unrelenting repression, should mobilize the UK to lead the Security Council members into taking concrete steps. They should pass a binding resolution and instituting a global arms embargo against the Myanmar junta. They should refer the country's situation to the International Criminal Court, so we finally get some impunity, we finally get an end to the impunity that the military has enjoyed for decades. And we're talking also about imposing targeted sanctions on the junta's leadership and military-owned companies. And if Russia and China block a resolution, as they might, then individual governments should use their own national sanctions capabilities at work to work towards a de facto global arms embargo. I mean, and that means going beyond just the EU, US, Canada, and the UK, but, you know, we've got to get Australia to do something. We need the democracies in East Asia, particularly Japan and South Korea, to step up. We need to build a wider coalition of governments that are prepared to take action. That is in line with the UN General Assembly's call for states to halt arms transfers to Myanmar back in 2021 and take other steps. Again, a UN resolution that seemed great at the time, but now has been forgotten. So I think it's time to recognize that much more needs to be done. The government should be taking necessary measures to pressure the junta, but also to support Myanmar civil society, because ultimately it's the voices of the Myanmar people that should be guiding the international efforts. It's their struggle for democracy and freedom that should be the clarion call that global actors heed. And they should recognize that the people of Myanmar have decided to persevere all the way until they win, and they need the support of the international community. So look forward to your questions.
Okay, we thank you, Phil, for this comprehensive overview of the international situation vis-a-vis Myanmar. So I open the floor for the first three questions to Chuu or to the other panelists. Who is the first one? Okay, it's always the one full of questions. Okay, please. Okay, wait, the microphone for the live. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. I see the Thai foreign minister after the Luang Prabang foreign ministers conference. He proposed, ASEAN foreign ministers agreed, humanitarian corridors along the border, with AHA Center actually monitoring them, with no talk of working with NUG, KNU, KMPP, etc., or any of the AROs, working with SAC. AHA, of course, has SAC representatives in it as well. They're going to set up in Mae Sot a center to monitor and facilitate this aid across the border. Complicating this, the border guard force has now become neutral and is not going to be supporting the military, which means the border is controlled by the ethnic armed organizations. So my question is, how can they expect to start this by the end of February? So my question is, how feasible is this? And if it does happen, is it going to have anything positive, or is it going to be a negative effect by legitimizing SAC, etc., letting Thank you.
Thank you very much. I still two more questions before giving the chance to answer. Yes, Noi, introduce yourself. And
Yes, it's Ponpen Kongachonpiet Foundation. Okay. I have a similar similar aspect related to humanitarian assistance. Who is the ICRC in Myanmar side? Because there is an announcement by Thai Ministry of Foreign Affairs that they will launch a cooperation between Red Cross. I would say not ICRC, sorry. I would say Red Cross Thailand and Red Cross Myanmar along the border. That could be a similar aspect that I wanted to know. And who is the Red Cross Myanmar?
okay, and then one more. You can also ask to Chuu about art beside Thailand. Ben?
Yeah, quick question. My name is Ben Harkins. I work for the International Labor Organization. I had a question for Chuu. Your exhibition is beautiful and brilliant. And I think I mean, I was in Myanmar when the coup happened. I think one of the strongest elements that was very clear about it is there was this very clear misogynistic underpinning to it. Of course, particularly deposing on Aung San Suu Kyi, but it was much broader than that, of course. And then the Myanmar military has always had a very chauvinistic, male-dominated orientation. I was wondering if you could just speak about how that informs your art, and clearly that is a part of the resistance that you're trying to support. I wish you could speak to that point a bit. Thanks.
Very much. Okay, this time we start with Phil, and then last will be Chuu.
So the question, I mean, this is the humanitarian corridor, which has been proposed by the Thais. This was something that actually the vice minister had been over in Myanmar last year talking about. And as far as we understand it, because there's not been a lot of revealed publicly about it, but it's an agreement between the Thai Red Cross and the Myanmar Red Cross to send humanitarian assistance from Thailand into Myanmar, as you said, with AHA Center monitoring. The fundamental problem, of course, is the Myanmar Red Cross, like many national Red Cross chapters, is controlled by the government. So it's controlled by the SAC. And so we expect there will be an effort by the Myanmar Red Cross to bend over backwards to assure that the SAC is happy and how that handled. I don't know how this is going to play out. What I would say is that it's probably going to be a lot of ado about nothing, because the reality is that none of the major international humanitarian assistance players is going to come in and give a lot of money or assistance to something that's funneling anything directly to the SAC. And the Myanmar Red Cross, you know, it is controlled by the SAC. Not sure who's on the board there, but it's probably cronies, generals' wives, what have you. So, I mean, I expect that there will be a limited impact, that there will be a lot of publicity about it, but that the amount of actual aid delivered will be small. Unfortunately, will probably be diverted to areas where the political affiliation of the people receiving the aid is just as important as the actual need. You know, I mean, I would hope that we won't see some of the most crass aspects of it, like, you know, for instance, Myanmar military generals in uniform receiving the aid along with the Myanmar Red Cross, but it's very possible. I mean, because one of the things that is very clear is that the Myanmar military junta strongly desires any form of international legitimacy it can get, because it has none. And so it is struggling to be seen as a government that is accepted by the international community. It is trying to, you know, use that to show to the people of Myanmar that somehow they should agree to allow it to continue to rule. And of course, that's not the case. Most of the people are opposed to the military government, but this is what the game is. I don't know why Thailand is playing into it. I think that there may be some unintended benefit if, in fact, Thailand takes a more humane response to people who are coming across the border and is more humanitarian in their outlook than, for instance, the previous NCPO military government was in Thailand, and then, you know, the quasi-military government of Prime Minister Prayut. We'll see. We'll see. But, you know, there's been no movement on so many things from ASEAN that I think they're desperate also to show that they're relevant and they're doing something. And this is, everybody says ASEAN centrality, ASEAN has to lead, ASEAN has to play the critical role, and then ASEAN does nothing. So now they're finally trying to do something and show that they're still relevant.
Yes, Khin, please.
So I pick up 3 questions. Feasible or not? Definitely not. The very reason is, if you go to the Karen border, basically, it's not the military junta who are actually stationed on the border. Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. There may be landmines, but not the military hunters anymore. So what that tells is that if Thailand really want to see the aid delivered to the affected people on the other side, it's not the hunter that they have to talk to or work with from the practical point of view. But also from the moral point of view, these military hunters are the perpetrator of this crisis, committed those crimes and violence. So it should be a common sense for everybody or anybody to think about it, like, why will these perpetrators who actually committed these crimes and kill the people, bomb that these communities in hiding now, why would they actually want to deliver the aid? Why would they? Why should they? In fact, they have weaponized the aid for all along, and particularly in the last 3 years. And I was even listening to the young people from, like different areas. And it's very clear that, how this military will not allow the international aid even to go through from inside Myanmar. So now they don't have control over the territory. And if you even go, like even the immigration checkpoints on the different border areas are actually the revolutionary forces are the one managing it. The prisons are managed by the military, the revolutionary forces, not the military anymore. The universities are in the control of the revolutionary forces. So in that case, even from the practical point of view, so I think Thai government really need to look into that. They can't just be in that delusion, like, looking that, oh, there is this military taking, control. It's not the case anymore. So that's one. Yes, Phil already answered who are the Myanmar Red Cross. And I can even say that, they are not only under the control of the military. Myanmar Red Cross always been oppressive security apparatus of the successive military regimes. So Thai Red Cross should be very careful who they are partnering with, because all their reputation is going to be because the reality is the Myanmar Red Cross is run by the ex-militaries who actually take the order from the successors all along. And they, in fact, are the source of the security risk for the communities on the ground. So I think that's one thing. The other is whether it would be a positive or negative impact. And Phil answer in a bit mild way. I would definitely say it's going to be very negative. The human security risk of our people in the last 3 years will be even further impacted and pose higher risk if Thai government will actually work with the Myanmar military for such life-saving, emergency, much-needed aid. So then my appeal to the Thai government is, please stop. But they can actually work with the EROs. They can actually work with the Karen. And now in the Karani, there is an interim executive council, which is the interim state government. They have their interim parliament, they are drafting the constitution, but also they have all of these administration in their head. Those military soldiers from Myanmar military side who surrendered or who were arrested now are in Loy Kor prison, where the revolutionary forces are keeping them. My point here is the administration, that is this alternative or the interim governance are already on the ground. And it's not only in the Qurani, it's also in the Quran, and that will be multiplied in other places, what we call as the liberated areas. So I think that is where the policymakers in the region, ASEAN, Thai government, will have to see that this country that is a member of the ASEAN and their neighbors are no longer the same Myanmar that they know for the past decades. This is a new country that they need to be practical in their policy approach, because if they keep betting on the military, that's not where the solution that they will find.
So Chuu, do you want to answer to Ben?
Yes. What should I say? I have a lot of things that I want to share and talk. And really thank you so much for Phil and Ohmar, because when you see my artwork, there these are more like a kind of a second layer or third layer of giving the messages and giving you to feel about Myanmar, because it's going to be really great. First, you see all the newspaper, all the information. So after you reading this, when you look at the paintings, it's more interesting, because in my painting, they're not illustrating what is really happening in Myanmar, like, you know, direct messages, like how they are burning the house and villages, and how they are killing even the young kids and people. You cannot really see directly, but in the kind of second layer of giving more thought and more changes and more sources of what is happening there, and also kind of a little gap for all these messages. And I'm sure some artists, they are also illustrating and showing this kind of giving this kind of information at some point, at somewhere someone is doing that. So I always follow the news, and I always follow what is happening, or also what kind of artworks are showing it. So, and I try to find a gap between which part is the lacking to link, and also to more understand about the culture, and also how people are resisting, how people are behaving and acting, depending on the political situation changes, and also depending on the emotions and the feelings. So I little trying to find a little gap between this, and I try to put in my artwork in a really interesting way, and also in a maybe useful way. It's not only giving the information, also to give some idea, and also to give some inspiration for the future, what we can make it better. To answer Ben's questions, yes. So I have started with this artwork like during the election to support the Aung San Suu Kyi. At this time, I thought it's important to support her and to support her party when nothing had happened at this time. But of course, after the coup, and I still supporting their party, but like the other people of Myanmar, we are fighting more for the future, for our freedoms, instead of we are fighting for one party or one person. It's not only for one group of people, it's more for our future. And even from the past, for many times, we try so many different ways from other older generations, since after we got the independence from British, they are tried so many ways. And then when I'm collecting informations, when I feelings, and when I transform these information to artwork, sometimes I have to be careful also the value of the artwork, and also the value of the informations, where I really sometimes it's a bit tricky to find the balance, because when the artwork is too polite, it becomes more like the illustrating the data, instead of it has the art value. So once the art value is really strong, sometimes, you know, it's lack of data and information. So I really try to be balanced between these two. And also what I found is through the career process, I found the military, they're really scared of young educated people. And they know all the revolution has started from the young educated people. So for many decades and for many generations, they make sure they give education, but which is not really good educations. And to be sure, not really educated. The young people not be really educated. As a result of it, we don't learn art or politics from the university or school, so from the government school. So it's also important how people think and people behave, and how we approach to the problems and solutions. So I really hope that in the future, with the better educations, and also with the better small how can I say it's more critical thinking to the people and to understand what is really wrong and what is right. And if we find the right way to be better one, because from this is not only Coup, there are also the coup in the past, and still people are fighting in so many different ways because of the times and also because of the technology. The way we fight might different, but the target is still the same, what we want. But we don't know what will happen after this. So, but for sure, we just don't want this one right now. We just want to remove it. We just want to change what we have suffered since the beginning of this this country in the history. So in my part of the artist and also in the part of the young generations, I think art is like my strongest point instead of I'm working with other things. And I will use these weapons as my strongest part of me. And then for this journey to entering to the new future of Myanmar, as like me, also another young people, we will keep finding a way. Sometimes we have no kind of giving the lines or giving the direction. Sometimes we are finding our own way. At some point, we might find a wrong way. At some point, we might find the right decisions. But at some point, once we know which is true and right, we will change it and we will go onto to this this future directions altogether. And this one I can promise.
Thank you very much. So final round of a question. Any comments? There are people who know a lot about Myanmar. Please, you can give your own ideas also of what is going to happen in the next year or few years. Again, Paul, okay?
I did wait, Leah, to see if anyone else had any questions, so I won't apologize too much. Chuu, as we know, Burma is a very conservative, patriarchal society. Women like you, the youth, are doing what you're doing. They're serving the country in various ways, including fighting on the front line. They're fundamental to winning the revolution. How will the country change in the future? Will it go back to being conservative, patriarchal? Or is this going to be a fun, when we win, probably by the end of this year, will it be, no, definitely, I'll put money on this if you like. Then will it go back to as it was before? Or is this going to be a fundamental change in the attitude and the patriarchy and the conservatism of Burma? In your own opinion, do you think it's going to be a fundamental change because of the revolution and the role that women have taken in that? Thanks.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Wait, Chuu, one moment. I give still an opportunity because this is the last round, so I want to be sure there are no left. Okay.
Thank you. I was going to ask Chuu and Khin mainly. Your art has really inspired me, Chuu, and I'd love to know who are your peers, who are the feminist groups that you look to, the activists that you look to inspire your resistance.
Okay. Maybe a last then. I think in the vision of initially, particularly, there was gender equity and inclusion in terms of LGBTQI as well as diverse ethnic group. Now, 3 years later, you see less of that. If you notice the message that are come from NUG and other groups, is it a change vision? Or is still very much on the agenda that you cannot have a democratic society without also having gender equity and of all genders and ethnic groups? For all of you to reflect. Okay, Chuu, we start from you this time.
Okay, so I will answer the first question like in the patriarchy and conservative the country, and which is really true, because when I start, you will see my artwork, and some women in my paintings are topless, and some are like open leg, and which is really not unusual that you've seen on the wall, the gallery wall of Myanmar. At this time, I got a lot of bad comments mostly from the May visitor, who came and visit to my exhibition at this time. But after the revolution, it's like shaking up, and everything is like upside down, and everything has changed. And I think that is also important for all the changes and to point out all the problems and all the things that which is happening right now, and which is not fair, which is not right, what we want to change. And the same like women's situations and in Myanmar, in my artwork, I make sure like because of the educations and we're accepting some ideas and some concept which is military want us to believe, and also even the laundry, the fabric that I use as in my artwork. And you might already hear if you know the culture of Myanmar, because you cannot wash together in the washing machine man clothes and women clothes, and especially the bottom part of the women clothes. And to hang is really important, and it have to be it shouldn't be higher than the man's shoulder, because it will clear the goodness and glory of the May goodness. That's why if you Google Myanmar Revolution front line, a lot of women's skirt and clothes are hanging in the front line. So the military, they are not brave enough to walk under these fabric, and they think it will bring bad luck to them. And even we use this we use this object in the revolution, and it is really it's really connected with our daily life and the way we fight to the politics. So in my hour, I use fabric. And once you see it, if you don't really know the culture and the background story, you might know, you might think that, yeah, it's a beautiful fabric with a beautiful girl on the top of it. But actually, if you know the story behind that, just using this fabric on the wall higher than the man's shoulder as an artwork and putting kind of really strong, confident women figure on the top of it is really like challenging. And in my work, I make it question, and also daring, which is a little bit from the different from the what people really think and see, and also it's highlight some point that they forgot to think about the link from the military, give the kind of poisonous informations, and also using the educations, why they push out all the university outside of the town, and next to the kind of the location of the school is not really they make it sure it's around it's kind of easy access to the alcohol place, and for the student to be able to have the education but not really educated, but at the same time happy and not interested in politics. They make it sure for the young people not to really into the other thing, only in their bubbles. So why? So in my artwork, through this work, I ask this kind of questions: why we cannot use these fabric higher than the man's shoulder? We're not destroying. So all the men who's visiting in my exhibition, they will see these fabrics are higher than the shoulder, but it's not bring any bad luck. So like slowly trying to enter all the belief from many decades, which is really still difficult to destroy everything in a short time. I think it will take a long time, but with slowly, and then when we arrive in the building the better future, and then when we win and we have to build a new system, a new structure, and we will put more idea on the top of it. And once we know the source, why we're doing now, the reason behind it, and even though we cannot change directly, at least for the next generation, and slowly we will be able to change it. And also the same from the old vintage newspapers and collage, some newspaper, and you will see there are more the right of the journalism, the way they write in the newspaper is really free, and they don't need to consider a lot of things, and you see it. And the same at the photograph. So it's well linked to the kind of the bad heritage from the British colonization, which is still, we have some in the system, we have still acting this from this these left habit, which are bad habit that we still need to change according to the situations right now. So me, I personally, I like to put small little messages and putting a highlight and making a question here and there. At the same time, I like to poke kind of a sensitive part and a little bit, you know, like putting these kind of fabric on the wall, and even though higher than the male's shoulder, and you're not Burmese guy, but if it's the Burmese guys walking in the gallery and they will see the hour which is higher, so sometimes a lot of visitors, they get confused. Should they consider it as an artwork, or should we consider it as a thing that will bring the bad luck because it's higher than them? So I like to making a question, and at the same time giving this kind of the information here and there, not in a very obvious way. So I believe with this artwork, and I will bring more questions to the society, and I will also give more inspirations in the community, how the art can participate and give a little bit of suggestions and a little bit of forgotten part, which that we are doing every day. Just because we are doing every day, sometimes we think about why, the reason, and then we forget it. So in my hour, you will see a lot of things, a lot of daily lives of Myanmar women, daily life of Myanmar people. Just because we're using and doing daily, sometimes we forget the reason behind. So in my hour, I try to bring it back and to change it and to rethink about it, and for the future. So this is the first question. And the second question, where is the inspiration come from? Where is the feminism, the ideas come from? So when I started this women's series, I have no idea what is the word feminism means. And at the time, my English wasn't good. Just my experience around me, people that I met, my friends and women, even in the daily transportation, on the motorbike, on the bus, we have to worry all the time because there are a lot of sexual harassment, and the sexual harassment is happening every day, but no one talk about it. I was so shocked because when it's happened to me, I thought it's happened to me and my sister because we were unlucky. But when I share this news with my friends and the friends from the hostel and all the female friends around me, they all had similar situation at least once or twice in their life, but no one talk about it. And then I was shocked. It's not because of the problem, it's not exit, but problem exit just because no one talk about it, no one hear it. So there might be some people who want to change, some men even want to participate to change, and also for this situation. But when the women, we don't tell our problems, situations, they can't do anything. So it's more to speak out. At this time, when I made the first exhibition, someone asked, do you consider yourself as a feminism, and do you know what is feminist? And then I didn't remember what I answered, but after this person left, I have to open the dictionary and I have to learn what is a feminism and things. So it's mostly in my painting, and what is happening, instead of being on the title of feminisms or maybe from inspiration of this group, I would say it's mostly from the peoples around me, from the world women's and the girl around me. I just try to see closer to their life and situation, and I take the inspiration for them.
Thank you. Okay, Khin, briefly, also there was another question from Facebook about the role of women in the PDF. PDF meaning People Defense Forces.
Yeah, before I respond, just something I want to share. As you see this Tamay, basically it is actually more of the Buddhist, community, whether it is Burma or Rakhine or the Mon. So what I'm trying to say is that this, like a women sarongs higher up is going to bring bad luck or lesser power to the men, it's actually not entire Burma thing. It's more to the majority mainstream Buddhist communities, whether it's Rakhine or Mon or Shan or Burma. But especially when you go to the Christian communities, there is no such thing in the past. But the Burman, throughout the Burmanization of the country and the military, these things pass on, no? So one of my colleagues actually talked to the current soldiers who actually talk about that the power thing, and the women surround and they are worried and scared. And then my friend basically told the current soldiers, what is your problem? I mean, we don't have that in current culture. We don't have that. And you said that you are actually against the Burmanization or Burman chauvinism, and yet you actually accept this thing because you're men. So just to share a little bit of that. I mean, this diverse culture, and yet at the same time, the mainstream culture started to come to be quite, like spread out through the different other communities. But I think I want to respond to this question, whether women are, then and gender equality, gender equity, and also whether the women will be pushed back, right? If we stay where we are, if we don't speak out, if we don't push, if we don't take initiatives, definitely, because the history speaks from the past to now, not only for Burma, but also in other countries, right? So if we don't do, then that's where women will be pushed back. But that's not where the women of Myanmar are, or women of Burma are there, especially the young generation. I work with many of the women from different ethnic communities. In fact, being also a founding member of the Women's League of Burma, which is a multi-ethnic umbrella organization. We've been on this, I mean, the foundation or the principle towards establishing the federal democracy for the women is gender equality and federal together. These are like two legs. Without these two going together, this is not what we are pushing for and what we want to see achieved, what we are working for. So now the women are actually, in this, what I think some of you know, this leading political policy making body called the National Unity Consultative Council. In that, Women's League of Burma is a part, as well as the many other women groups. And what they've been doing is also developing the gender policy for the transition, interim and transition. But see, this is a thing. The male members of these such bodies, like whenever the women talk about, they're like, oh yeah, you women do it. It's always, oh yes, gender equality is important. You women develop it. So that's not what we want, right? We want to develop together. So I think that's where also the current push of the women in the revolution right now. I mean, they're going somewhere. I mean, at least, you see, especially the young generation, men are very progressive. But what I believe is the progressive mindset cannot be effectively influencing the transformation of the society unless that is transformed, that mindset is transformed, the progressiveness is transformed into the policy that the government will implement. So I think that's where we are. We are there to really make sure that the young men's progressive thinking will be actually transformed into this policy together with the women, so that when the revolution wins, when the new Myanmar comes, women will not be pushed back, but we will take the further steps. So as an older generation, I am, again, for this particular part, hopeful. But again, I have to be very truthful and honest that most of the men, particularly from the previous generation, including my generation, are not really changing their mindset. But my hope is more on the young generation. So that's what I would like to see. About the PDF, the women in PDF or the women in the front line in the actual military operations and fightings. The women, as far as I know, observed and heard and talked to, the women at the front line are actually, they are in this like a wider coalition with the other women from the civil society networks, women organizations. So they are together. So they have the forums, they have the consultation meetings. So it's not like they are there only doing this military operations. They face many discrimination also because, again, you're seeing this male members of the armed resistance who, again, with the arms, still think that the women don't belong to this and women cannot do this and that because they are women. So women really are pushing also based on how they want to contribute. If they want to take up the arms, that's their decision. So just like last week, I saw one of the women got really promoted to the higher position in the army because of her courageous fight with the Myanmar military troops. So we see that kind of things. But I think that the point is also, how do we address this very entrenched with this that comes along with this patriarchy and all? How do we address also the gender-based violence, right? The sexual harassment, discrimination, and all of that. And we cannot deny that sexual harassment and even like a sexual violence in some areas, some cases happen among some of the revolutionary forces. But there are many who are very progressive young people. Like I see, for example, like one of the young army, the leaders, the top leaders of the army are the women including. And they are actually making the policies and even developing their code of conduct that ensure also how to address gender violence, gender-based violence. So you see that kind of things like code of conduct, not by Geneva Convention only, but on this rights-based human rights protection from the gender point of view. So you see things like that. Again, like I said, if we don't support these young people and these young women, who are we going to support for the hope and future for this country? So I want to end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Phil, last words.
Thank you. I think it's very important to understand that political change is not going to come in Myanmar unless we see an effective deconstruction of the existing military. This is what people are fighting for. This is the difference between what is happening now and what has happened in previous iterations of struggle, is that there is a sustained fight that is going on between the people and the military. And ultimately, it is the military itself, the Myanmar military, that has always insisted on a politically dominant center, a union of Myanmar that has effectively denied a lot of the rights to the ethnic minorities. That is the biggest problem here. And part and parcel of that is also patriarchy. They are the upholders of some of the most conservative social economic mores in the country. So, what we're talking about is you've got to knock down the center pillar. I think that's, and there was a discussion about, okay, well, let's do the things that we agree on first. So, you're going to talk about a effective deconstruction and perhaps reconstruction or reimagination of what security forces are in Myanmar. And I think that's going to be very, very big element that will impact all aspects of society, including issues of gender and women's rights. I think that, it's possible we will see as a result of the revolution some changes in attitudes. And for instance, I was heartened by the initial change of attitude towards the Rohingya after the military coup, where people started to realize that, geez, we really treated the Rohingya very badly. We didn't care what the military was doing to the Rohingya in Rakhine State in 2017. And now, look, the military is doing it to us. And so there was a recognition that there is some degree of solidarity. And I think building up that sort of progressive solidarity is got to be part of the solution as well. I think there is certainly a truth that the youth, I think, are less burdened by some of the discriminatory architecture and sort of some of the attitudes that their parents hold. But, issues of gender-based violence are huge. And it's not just in Myanmar. In Thailand, in Laos, Cambodia, we see gender-based violence as a huge issue. Vietnam, it's off the charts. So, it's an issue across the region. And I would say that it's not only building links amongst women in Myanmar, but also building links amongst Burmese women with other women in the region, because there has to be a sort of larger effort. And this is actually an area where the international community should do more. You know, some of the solidarity events that are done in Thailand, some of the things that have been, you know, made it not okay to engage in this kind of attitudes and acting. I mean, look at the fact that you've had a number of politicians who have been run out of parties because of their involvement in sexual harassment and abuse. So I think that there's a possibility there, but we have to actually build on that. And in terms of the question about women in the PDFs, last week there was a film festival, a short documentary film festival at the FCCT that the Democratic Voice of Burma did. One of those films was called Rachel, about a woman who is a PDF member of a Karen PDF. And that film is available online on the YouTube channel of DVB, and you can watch it, and it's actually quite revealing. It's quite impressive. So I think that I'm broadly optimistic that the situation in Myanmar is going to ultimately result in a victory for the revolutionary forces. But I think how this plays out over the next year, 2 years, 3 years is difficult to say. And that is the big thing. I mean, every time I talk to international diplomats, they're like, what's going to happen in the next 6 months? Are we going to see a breakthrough? You know, it reminds me sort of like, you know, the old days, like when Aung San Suu Kyi was under house arrest, and everybody expected that she was going to be released next month or 3 months from now. And each ambassador believed that they were going to be the ones who were going to save the day. You know, it's not that simple. And the reality is that the international community are influential, but they're not the leading actors. It's the people in Myanmar that are leading this, and their determination and their continued fight over the past 3 years, which shows no sign of abating, and in fact is increasing, is an indication that the Myanmar people, the Burmese people of all ethnicities, have had enough with this military. They've had enough with Min Aung Hlaing, and they're going to actually make some very significant changes when they ultimately win the day.
Yes, Khin, briefly.
Very quickly also, as I've been talking to the international governments in the last couple of months, I asked them the question, in Washington, D.C. or in Brussels, are you ready to give a practical hand to the people of Myanmar if and when the military will fall in next 2 months or 6 months or even a year, even if you're not given practical assistance right now? Because the reality is Myanmar people are already having this local governance already doing themselves. And in ethnic areas, those existed forever before too, but now it's expanding and strengthening. The international community, the governments, UN, ASEAN, their perspective and their thinking, their policy approach all need to be reviewed and changed, in fact. And I asked for that. I asked them, are you reviewing your policy, especially in the wake of 1027 in October? If you don't do that, then it will be too late. And then they asked, and this is one thing they said commonly. I'm sharing that with you because I think it's important for us to hear. And many of the international actors asked me or told me like, actually, is this going to be a Burma going to be, or Myanmar going to be fragmented or balkanized? You know, I said, you know, actually, this is the time that people are able to come together for this nation building. If you don't support it, rather like instead, if you are complaining or worry about it, that's not where the answer is. So I've been saying that, and I would like also for you all to help us talk to your governments to really grab on where the Myanmar is and Myanmar peoples are. So I just want to call for your support. And my last point is I want to make an announcement. We have the open letter to call on the UN Security Council that will be released on February 1 as we mark the third anniversary of the military's failed coup. Please look for it on Progressive Voice website, and also our allies signatories will be posting. We will be also, as Progressive Voice, we are publishing a briefing paper on the military's illegal sham election plan. That will be also released on February 1. So please also look into that. And then in sooner time, maybe in a week or so, we are actually together with our Myanmar civil society partners and regional and international. We will be updating, we are updating, and we will be releasing this civil society position paper to counter as a counter proposal to the ASEAN 5-point consensus. So please also look into that for your information. Thank you very much. Thanks, dear.
Thank you very much, and a lot of information to look into. So thank you to all the speakers. Now we are going to open the exhibition. So unfortunately, Chuu cannot come with us, but Phil and Ohmar will cut the ribbon also on your behalf. And after the cutting of the ribbon, we can walk in the exhibition and enjoy some food on the other end of the exhibition. So you have to walk first all across the exhibition. And please, on your way out, donate, since this helps us, although we have our supporter, also your contribution help us to continue to do this kind of activities. So please, let's walk, and on your way out, take bye-bye to Chuu. An applause to Chuu.
Have a good day.